Hi, my name is Jem. I grew my own business from a 3K investment to a seven-figure business and spent the last 10 years in hospitality. I closed my restaurant down last year in November, and since then I've been helping founders. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works and why founders bring me in. I think one of the first reasons why people speak to me or want to bring me in is because their business has kind of like hit a plateau. So they've already got a business that kind of works. Like there's revenue coming in. This isn't for startups. This is for people who have got some revenue coming in, but what they're finding is like year on year, that revenue isn't going up any further. It kind of sits there. It's all in a very safe place. They still feel like there's a lot of potential, but it feels like the wheels are like spinning. And so at that point, they want to bring someone in who can actually maybe see where the business needs to be focusing. So that's a great opportunity for me to come in, look at your business from the outside and actually see like where are the opportunities? Where can we grow? Because a lot of founders just get fed up. They don't want another year where they're not growing, basically, where the team is very safe, everything is kind of quiet. And obviously that works for a lot of businesses. But if you're a business that has bigger ambitions for what you're doing, then that's a great opportunity for me to come in because we can break through that plateau. The second reason people bring me in, founders have so much to do. Like a lot of the time, they're still doing sales, they're still doing a bit of delivery, they're still doing a bit of marketing. They kind of still got their hands in a lot of areas of the business, which is expected. A lot of the founders I'm working with are doing between 500K up to a couple of £1 million a year. So it's still in that area where you are a big part of the business, sometimes all of the business. So for me, it's kind of going away and seeing like what are your key priorities? Where are you going to work best? And how do we kind of get you out of certain areas of the business that are kind of holding it back? So for me, it's about having a clear strategy and looking at what we need to prioritize to grow the business. Usually that might mean bringing people in, that might be making a few hires and put you in where you're going to be best within the business. Because a lot of founders I speak to tell me what their ideal days would look like, what kind of work they really enjoy doing, but very few are actually doing those things. So we try to figure out exactly how we can make that happen. So another reason why someone might ask my help is that they're just too close to the business. Like they are inside that business day in, day out. They can't kind of take a holistic view of the business because they're just there. As I say, they're spinning lots of plates. They can't see the opportunities within that business because every week it's kind of putting out fires. So when I come in, I'm kind of, as I say, I stand back from the business. I'm kind of looking from a bird's eye view, seeing what's going on. And often I'll say things that the business owner is like shocked that they didn't know about or didn't see themselves. And I think that's because when you get so close to your business, you almost become blind to those opportunities and the things that seem obvious to you just kind of get hidden. The fourth point is actually struggling with position and messaging. I think a lot of the founders I work with seem to say to me a lot of the time that, oh, business just comes in, like, oh, we get referrals. It's kind of almost feels a bit sporadic. So what I say is if you want to grow that business, we almost have to stop relying on these sort of, oh, that just happened to fall into place. Oh, we just get our work. It just seems to come at the right times. I think what we want to do there is create that predictability. And obviously that adds value to your business. If you can prove that you have a methodology of bringing in new clients or bringing in new leads, not just like a hit and hope or, oh, they just find us on Google or, oh, we've been running these ads and that seems to work. But I think if you want to break through that plateau, which we've been speaking about before, is we have to really figure out like where is our ideal positioning? How does that help with the price point? How do we speak to the kind of customers we want? And so at that point, it is really figuring out who is that ICP of the business and how do we hyper focus on them and find exactly the spaces where they are so that we can have a predictable system for bringing them in. So one big part as well is just having someone who's unbiased to the business. Obviously, if you've got employees and they see you as the boss, they're always going to try to tell you things to make you feel good and they're not going to try rock the boat too much. They don't want to lose their jobs. Obviously, hopefully you don't have that kind of relationship, but a lot of the time they are trusting your decision and they kind of usually think that what you say goes. So like having someone who's kind of like not fully tied to your business isn't sort of going to get, I don't know, I'm not going to get reprimanded or a problem if I go and tell you, actually, I think you're wrong in thinking that, or actually that thing you're considering just might not work. Like I like that I'm on the outside. You've got your ideas in your head and you can actually use me as a soundboard to tell whether those things actually make sense. Should I actually go ahead with that? Because it's easy as a founder just to think, well, I know what to do. It's my business. And I know I'm just going to keep doing those things that I think is the correct thing to do. I think sometimes, especially as you're growing, again, the responsibility of those decisions you make can actually have a bigger impact. Like you can actually mess up more when you're growing that business. So I think having someone there as a soundboard And another part that founders really like is if they're going to spend or if they're going to invest. Okay, I want to do some outdoor media, or I'm going to bring in this agency, or I want to create these kind of bits of content, and they get quotes back, and I can kind of look at it from my own experience, go, okay, I think that person's being a bit cheeky, or maybe that's too early. I get why you want to do it, but is now the right time? And again, that kind of goes back to priorities and prioritizing and figuring out like which decisions are the right ones, but having someone on the outside who has that experience and of being a founder, of having his own business, to actually challenge you on certain things. Like, I'm not there to rock the boat, but I am there to allow you to kind of have those decisions back and forth, and we can discuss and figure out if that next move makes the most sense. Number six is an important one, because I think a lot of the time, again, I know as a founder, weeks could go by and you feel like nothing's actually improved in the business. Sometimes one issue in the business can actually take out the whole week itself. So I know how important it is to have a list of things that you're doing in your business that you know are progressing the business. It's that whole, are you working on the business? Are you working in the business? I think a lot of founders will probably think that they're actually spending a whole lot of time in the business. And when I say, oh, have you done this? Have you done that? A lot of times, oh, yeah, I was going to, but then this came up. And I think when you have accountability and when you have someone behind you who's actually nudging you in the right direction of what you should be working on, which actually moves the needle, it actually gets done. So, yes, you'll still have those fires, but because we're keeping certain priorities top of mind, even if it's one task per week getting done, but we know that's making a step forward in the business, that is instantly adding value to your business. It's actually improving the revenue every week, knowing that you've actually progressed in the business is moving forward, and it's adding excitement as you start seeing some of the traction or some of the rewards of some of those changes we're making. You actually get inspired. I guess it's a lot like when you have a personal trainer for the first month or two, you're not really seeing any changes, but as soon as you start seeing, or you get a compliment from someone and you see, oh, is that my abs coming through, or oh, is my arms looking slightly better? I think those sort of little rewards start getting that momentum going, and then you start taking action even more so. But it is starting out by having those priorities, having accountability, and then being able to actually execute on those. So number seven is preparing to scale past the ceiling. I guess that goes back to feeling like you're on a bit of a plateau. Like a lot of my founders that I do work with haven't hit actually that seven figure mark. I've got a couple that have, and they're over that, but they have been in business for, one of them, over 50 years. So I think that kind of seven figure point is an exciting one. Like, I like to be able to say, like, I built my own seven figure business. So I love the idea of having this ceiling that we want to break through, because I do think that seven figure mark does kind of like really open up the potential for a business. And to hit that seven figures, you must have systems and foundations in place that will allow that to occur. And once you break through, obviously, you now see there's the ceiling's wide open. You can go further than that mentally, and from a business structure perspective, seeing exactly how we can get to that seven figure mark, break out of what you think is possible, and then you can go on to scale. So a lot of that is a bit of a belief, but also having the foundations of the team, the structure, accountability, and just knowing that you can have a business that has the foundations to actually reach that point. So number eight is something that people probably don't talk about enough, and that is feeling isolated and lonely at the top. Like, as a founder, you always feel kind of a distance, even though you have your team and you've brought them on and maybe you've had them in your life for a long time. There's always that sort of distance of like, okay, that's the team, and then there's me. And actually, everything I talk about is, it feels quite high level, and actually nobody's there to talk about. I can't talk about it with my family. It is quite lonely being an entrepreneur, and that's why there obviously is a lot of mental health issues. And I think, having been a founder myself, having dealt with the stresses that come with having your own business, I think a lot of founders like to be able to discuss problems that are going on, discuss their week, discuss family as well, what's going on in their lives, because it all is all entwined. So like, what's happening in your personal life will have an effect on your business, and vice versa. So I think it's nice just to have someone there who's been there, has had those feelings, those experiences, has the highs of a certain week and the lows of another, and just being like, do you know what? This is all normal. It's all part of the process. And do you know what? We can move on from it. So that's a really big part of it. And that's one of the parts I enjoy the most, is obviously finding out personally about the actual founders and like why they're doing it, who they're doing it for. That's all it comes down to. It's like human to human relationships. And I think the more sort of composed and happy you are in yourself, I think that also just translates over to your business. So yeah, they're kind of like the eight core reasons why people might want to bring in an unofficial co-founder. And if that's something that seems like, or any of those have kind of like hit the point of, do you know what, there are things I could do with, then yeah, reach out to me and I'd love to work with you.